When Bobby always reminds me all the time that Zay was my Sanda and carried me all the time.
And that's why you are. Finish the sentence.
And that's why I argued about it. That's what she said. She was also Avi Sanda, by the way.
He was slowly
So you see it runs right through. It went through his hands. You know, the argumentative. That's the word. But when Zaidy, on Sukkot, on Chol when I came from Muncie back down to the house, after Chanil called me, I think. Chanil called me right after Yom Tov ended, and we drove back to the house. I went straight into Bobby's apartment, and she said to me that, you know, Zaidy might not be able to carry me much longer, and I'm going to need to be able to carry myself. And that was a very crushing thing to hear, you know, because Zay was a powerhouse, you know, and I definitely would not be able to carry myself the way he carried me. I could very much try, but there's a lot of members of our family that are role models in a similar way to me, in the way that Zay was, and I want to call Uncle Stevie to speak first, because that would be very, very important.
Around a little bit.
I had a little fun. My life with Zaidy was mad. Yeah. I had a different relationship with Zaidy. I mean, probably without him, I wouldn't be where I am in my life today. So, I mean, I told the story at the Levaya in Israel, and it probably best expresses, you know, our relationship together. Now, when I first met Auntie Donna was in September of 1977, and you know, I knew I was going to marry her. There was no doubt in my mind the first day I met her. But I knew there were a couple of hurdles that needed to be overcome in life, you know. So, you know, I had gone to visit her. She'd been ill a couple of weeks after we had met, and I was at the house, and there was this gentleman. I don't know who he was. You know, he was in the backyard. And he was knocking these 2x4s together, and I thought that was real sporting. You know, they were going to put an extension on the back of the house. You know, didn't realize that October was, you know, Sukkot. You know, I had no idea about this, you know, and all these little things. And then as time traveled on, I realized, you know, she doesn't answer her phone on Friday night, and I can't get a hold of her. And so that's why I started to learn about Shabbos and, you know, Yom Tov and one thing or another, and so on. But really the first time I got to sit down with Bobby and Zaidy was probably around March or April of '78. And at the time I was going through a lot of stuff. My parents were sick and lots going on in my life. But I was summoned to the house on Grassmere Terrace. And, you know, I got there on time. I did. That was one of my first things where I learned about Jewish time. You know, if they say 7, it means really 9. You know, there's no doubt about that. And, you know, Zaidy and Bobby came in, and Zaidy sat down on his chair and lit up a pipe, and those of you who remembered, he did have that pipe, right? He sat in his chair, and that was by the piano, and Bobby sat over by the credenza, and Zaidy says to me, "So, what's your intentions with my daughter?" I said, "I'm going to marry her. No doubt about it, I'm going to marry her." And Zaidy says, "Don't you see a little problem here with religion?" And I said, "No, not really. Not at all. You know, Bonnie can do what she wants to do, and you know, I'll just kind of like tag along and, you know, whatever goes on, stuff like that." That was a terribly wrong answer. Let me tell you. wrong answer. All right? So, further on, we talked about it, and he said, well, this is where we come from, and I said, well, I have no basis of comparison to this, wasn't very good at what I was at the time, but okay. And he says, would you consider converting? And I said, okay, yeah, whatever, but, I didn't know what was happening, at this point. So, roughly about 2 months later, the decision was really made easy for me because my parents were NIFTR at that time, and I really didn't have any ties to anything after that. And Zaidy says to me, or Donna actually said to me, Zaidy wants you to come for Shavuos. Shavuos. There's Rosh Hashanah, there's Yom Kippur, and Passover. And that thing they built in the shack. What's this one coming up? Okay, so, we're going to sit and learn Torah. Okay, we're going to sit and learn Torah. Going on here and stuff. But I'm not doing this alone because really, I figure Zaidy wants to get rid of me. So he's going to have, his friends with him. So I'm going to have somebody with me. Right? So I call my friend Peter. Right? Peter and I are good friends. Right? Peter is Jewish. And he's a Kohen. I'm golden. Right? Peter, listen, you want to come up and stay up and learn Torah with me on Shavuos? On what? Shavuos. What's that? You're Jewish, man. Right? Okay. So Peter comes with me, and we stayed up at Saul Hoffitz's house. He was right across the street from the Young Israel of Waycrest and Bayswater, and Morty Botwinick was there, Oliver Shalom, and Leo Gross was there, Oliver Shalom, and Zaidy, and Peter came along with me. Okay? And I really, honestly, I got to tell you the truth, I didn't understand what they were saying. I really just didn't have a clue. Right? But I'm willing to give it a try. Right? And it comes 4 o'clock. That's where I met Kenny Shapiro for the first time. But that's a whole other story. Alright? So at 4 o'clock, 4:30 in the morning, we get up and we go across the street to the Young Israel of Waycrest and Bayswater. Alright? And Zaidy hands me a siddur, and he says, read. Now, I don't speak Hebrew. It's Greek to me. Anyway, right? But it's a Birnbaum siddur. Right? It has English. He says, start here and just read. I'll let you know when we're finished. And sure enough, I started to read. And from that moment on, I was hooked. I was hooked. So really, it's Zaidy who started me down the road, down the path, with Bobby, right? And Donna, and Amy, and Rochelle, and I can't leave out Dina, right? And Pies Plus. I will never forget that day, right? And if you don't know, I got summoned also by Rochelle and Dina to meet them at Pies Plus one day on Central Avenue. I think that's where Susie Michigan is now, right? And, well, whatever. And I was also asked, what are your intentions with my sister? Right? And I said, well, I'm an American. Anyway, so that's really, my path with Zaidy and his, teaching me about Judaism from his perspective and, to love everybody Jewish. Doesn't matter. Love everybody Jewish. Right? Defend the Jewish people. Be part of Kol Yisrael. And that's what I learned from Zaidy. And that's what I've tried to do. So maybe at this point in my life, I can't sit and learn a block of Gemara, right? But I feel like I'm a part of everybody, and I will drop at a moment, whatever I'm doing, to go help a fellow Jew. And I think that's what I took away from my relationship with Zaidy, right? And he taught me all the beautiful things that it is to be Jewish, right? And I'll finish off on one note. A couple of years ago, Donna and I were honored by the One Israel Fund. And in the interview process for the video that they do, at the interview there, they interviewed Bobby and Zaidy for the dinner, right? So they're sitting and they said to Zaidy, tell me, how's your attachment to Eretz Yisrael? He said, well, I come from a religious family and so on and so forth, and I went and fought with the Irgun in Israel. Wow, proud of you and stuff. What did you do with the Irgun? Right? Now, if anybody knows in this family, nobody. When you ask Zaidy, what did you do? I can't talk about it. There are still people alive. Something will happen. This is 1940. I think we're pretty safe now saying, but anyway, so Zaidy said that he was part of a 5-man cell, and only one guy knew somebody else in another cell before they could get up the chain of command. I said, so what did you do with them? He says, we robbed banks. Well, you could hear the silence in my house. Robbed banks? Where did this come from? Bobby was like, robbed banks? Donna and I were like, excuse us? My neighbor's across the street. What? So if anybody wants to know, the truth is out now. Zaidy was a bank robber. All right? But he was a very particular bank robber. He liked to rob Barclays Bank. Why, you may ask, Barclays Bank? They were insured by Lords of London. And they got their money back. So he felt that by robbing them, nobody really got hurt.
But he didn't use the money for himself.
Did I say he used the money for himself? That's what he did. He robbed banks, they gave it to the Irgun, they did whatever they had to do, and then Lloyds of London would give Barclay back their money, and Zaidy could do it all over again. Alright? So, everybody should just keep Zaidy's memory alive, right? Understand that he was a hero, not only to all of us here, but for all of Israel, right? In all the things that he did, he fought in Israel in 47, 48. He fought here for Soviet Jewry and to protect Jews on the streets. And that's the way we should teach our children, is how important it is, right? To care for one another and to care for our fellow Jew. Thank you.
Thank you, Uncle Steve, for leading us off, and okay.
Not running away.
Baruch Hashem, our family is very, very good, and you know, there are a lot of role models that learn from Zaidy to help carry on Zaidy's name, but we're very, very lucky to have Micha here, who is the oldest grandson and grandchild, and got to know Zaidy for the longest out of all of us. And with that, I would really, really like Micha to say a few words.
Sure.
Otherwise, I
Can't hear me? Because I haven't said a word yet.
The video camera won't be able to hear you. You have to talk
I
loud.
can't hear Eliana.
Lost your voice. Someone down the block. I'm not a great speaker like everyone else, and I'm going to keep my stories, I guess, to the point, and to where the relevant points are. And there's no particular order of them. I guess maybe just, first I'm just going to be Rosh Hashanah, and Kippur, the first one that I remember at least. The one thing that you could say about Saba, he was Saba or Saba Rabba, was consistency. At least from my point of view as a grandson, it was consistency. It was you know that Saba was going to leave the house, to go to shul, when we were there for Yom Tov for Shabbos. The same time, every day, he was going to be in the kitchen, davening, the same time every single day. And he was going to be in the same spot, whether he was at Yeshiva Barakwood, which I don't know how he davened there. It was as a 6-year-old, or maybe 7-year-old kid, going to shul with him at 7 o'clock in the morning in the trailer when it was freezing cold. It was, I was freezing. I would keep my jacket still on, and he was there under with his tallis, with I think just a shirt on and maybe a suit jacket, depending on the time of year. He wouldn't talk the entire time. He wouldn't barely, I would tell him I'd be leaving and just shake his head yes. When we were going out, and anytime I would go out, or if I was by myself, we would just go out. And the same thing in Israel on Rosh Hashanah and Kippur. Saba was in the same spot. I don't even know if they gave spots or not. I don't remember that far back. I remember the shul being packed to a degree, but not so packed that I'm sure there had to be the same spot. But Saba was always in the same seat every single year. The same thing with davening, even when he came for Shabbos. I don't know if he regularly davened in Israel, did he?
No, just when you came.
Just when we came, right? Same spot also. And it was one of those things that carried me, I think, through my life that I always remembered about Saba was consistency. Was you wake up at a certain time, you do a certain thing, and that's just how life goes. That's how you get from day to day to day to day to the next day. And it's one thing that I remember about Saba that I hold, that I try and pass on to my children. The next thing would be with Saba davened. There's actually one memory that I have that actually is just coming to me now. When we were there for, I don't remember if I went with Abba, without Abba to shul, but we had gone. I remember you and I being there. I remember going to Tantanissi and on Boozer afterwards, but I think I went with Saba to the shul, and I had to have been Yantiv. Pesach time. And I remember being...
You got the baked goods from Nissi.
Right, so I went to shul with Saba, I think, first, and another of us had gone to the Young Israel, and I remember, I don't think I ever stayed in shul that long, period. I must have been, I don't remember how old I was. Up here goes Kohanim. I don't think we went on your, did we go into your talis? Were we ever in shul that long?
Yes, at the end.
Yeah, right? But I remember when Uncle Harry was mentioning at the Levi that he used to go under his talis, I have a distinct memory of going under his talis and looking up and seeing his beard and shushing every couple of seconds. Because I remember just talking, I didn't know what was going on. I was like, can we go now? Can we go now? It was hot. Oh my goodness, it was hot. Saba was like I tell Danielle, her and the kids the same thing, they're like nuclear facilities that just exude heat. Saba was the same way. Underneath that talis, it was so hot. But I have these like glimpses of memories of things as like I was trying to, for the last 2 weeks, it's why it was hard for me to put it down, to try and remember so far back. There's one time, there's a story, I've told it to the kids also, I think Eitan and I have both spoken about it too. Auntie Shelley used to live around the block on Jarvis, and we were by Saba and Savta by ourselves. And we were either walking Yehuda home, or we were going to meet Yehuda to play by Auntie Shelley, so we couldn't get there was a dog in the way. A big red dog that was in the way. We lived by, I think it was a Jamaican guy's house, from like 2-3 doors down. We couldn't get there. Eitan and I couldn't get to the house. I remember at some point we were trying to get there. We kept it was like a game. We'd run there, the dog would chase after us. We'd run back to Savta's house. We'd try again a couple of minutes later. At some point, Yehuda met us at some point, and Eitan and Yehuda somehow got past the dog, but I was still on the other side. But the dog started chasing them because I guess he got upset because they got through. I don't know what. I remember throwing a rock at the dog, and then the dog turned around and started chasing me. And I finally just ran home, and I told Saba, I said, Saba, he's like, what are you doing home? I was like, he's supposed to be at Yehuda's house, and because he was learning, or maybe he was sleeping, I don't remember. And I told them there was a dog in the way, and it's one of those memories that you have that like stands out, that are just like, when you think of a big person, an Adam Gadol, that's what you think of. he walked outside because I was just, to me, it seemed like the time that I was bothering him, but I don't think that's what it was. I think that he was just upset with the dog, that he had the audacity to chase us down. And he stomped outside, the door slammed behind us. I couldn't keep up with him, and the dog starts chasing after us. It's like the dog sees us, rather, and he starts taking 2-3 steps towards us. Saba grabs him by the scruff of the neck and throws him to the side. And he walks me to Yehuda's house, and that was the end. That's like one of those. I have it as clear as day. I remember Saba picking it up by the scruff of the neck and just throwing it to the side. The dog gives a yelp, and then just scampers off somewhere else. We never saw the dog again. I don't know if I'm not sure if he killed it. I have no idea. But we never saw the dog again. Saba really was. He was an Adam Gadol. He was bigger than life. I mean, all of you were older when you remember him, and you grew up with him. But to us children, I'm sure I can speak to all the cousins. He was an Adam Gadol. He was just a giant. I mean, his hands were big. Even when you got older, his hands were big. They were humongous. I mean, people were coming up to me after his levaya and telling me, I knew that you were related because of your hands, and I would look down at my hands and be like, that's a joke. Because his hands, I remember one time when I was holding his hand, and his fingers were probably double as wide as my fingers were. His hand was probably about double as wide as my hand was. And I don't have a big hand, but that's pretty big. He was bigger than life. He was quiet. He was soft-spoken to an extent, I guess. Except when he was passionate about something. With the kids, he would speak to us. It was a rough voice, but it was never, I don't think it was ever harsh. At least to us it wasn't. Maybe to other people it was, but to us that was Saba. That's who he was. That's how he spoke. And then you would get a big hug from him, and you would just disappear, and you all of a sudden find this wet face of lips, and you were just, the side of your face was just, and I remember as a kid always turning whatever side he kissed me on, turning that side away from him and wiping it off so I wouldn't insult him, but that was the sign of love, that was the kiss. I remember mentioning it to Rabbi Weinberg at Bolavaya, he said he remembered it also. I guess I must have called him too. All the stories that you hear, I'm giving you the tea time. All right, I guess that's coming down to my time. There was other stories I wanted to go into also, but
Go for it.
okay, I'm all right. See, yes, no, yes, no. Two Shelleys are arguing it out. Some of the cousins may remember Sheppy. Some of the cousins may not remember Sheppy.
Sheppy?
Sheppy.
Oh, we remember Sheppy.
Happens when they go.
I remember Sheppy.
I remember Sheppy as being a staple of Saba Sabta's house. I don't remember it otherwise. When he was gone, it was, get out of the place. Yeah. That was as you were walking up the stairs, that's what you would, get out of here, go inside. That's what you did. But it was always, even still, this being in the house by the end of his life, every time he would get excited, every time he would, anything, for whatever reason. And Saba would be upset and he'd get angry at it, but there was always, what was it, kindness? It was more than kindness, it was a pity almost in the dog, but he still treated the dog in a way that you wouldn't expect someone of stature, the way that a person that he was, the way that there was still a tenderness and a loving, that he would move the dog to the side.
I was thinking about the things when I was very little that I liked to do by Saba at Sabta's house. And I was reminded that I used to really like to climb the tree in your yard.
Oh, the tree.
Right? That was a nice tree.
Yeah.
But I remember when I was a little bit older, it was in 2010, I had left work and a very, very difficult time leaving him, but the only person in my entire life, one of the only people that I had a fear of disappointing was Zaidy. The only person that it was so difficult for me at different parts of my life to be honest with him about what was going on in my life, because if I thought for a second he was disappointed in me, I would die right there, I really would. And he was very, very good at, with me, I know he spoke a lot to a lot of people about a lot of different things, but with me, Zaidy gave me looks more than anything. You know, he really did. He didn't yell at me. He didn't move, he didn't do any of that. He would give me a look, and he was very compassionate with the way that he spoke to me, unless we were arguing about something that wasn't important. If it wasn't important, we would yell and scream, but if it was important, he would talk very compassionately. And I think that my older brother Yehuda also picked that up from him as well, in a lot of different ways. I see that over there. So I like Yehuda.
Raise one eyebrow.
I'm not up to the Lion King.
No, it's actually nice. That's been very good tool to be to use. Mine, anytime you did something I didn't like, or we planning on doing something that I wasn't like, I told you to go discuss it with
And my mother did that as well.
No more line coach for you?
What did your mother do?
What you just said.
I didn't. Well,
Really is Mandy, if I stand over here, will you get me? Or stand in the middle when you do it.
You would have just talked loud enough.
no, you didn't. Open thing, it's like blocking. It's right.
I've been trying to look at Justin.
Anthony, you can sit here if you don't mind my foot on the chair at the same time. You can sit here if you don't mind my foot half on the chair. It's all right, it's just boiling hot. So sit as long as my
Okay,
foot doesn't
guys.
bother you.
It's not a recess.
It's not really.
You say that in this one?
I'll tell you when it
It's good to see everyone. I'm glad that I flew in for this. It really means a lot to me, and I know it means a lot to Bobby and the rest of the family as well. For the past few weeks, I was really struggling about what to speak about. I didn't know what to say. A lot of different stories and ideas crossed my mind. I considered, like Micha, just going on a rant and just going and going and going and going, but I knew that I would eventually get stopped. So I decided to try to put my thoughts down on paper, which I usually don't do, and just try to keep it a little bit structured. I once heard a Torah by Reb Shlomo, and I don't recall who it was in the name of, but I remember that when I heard it for the very first time, my entire world changed. Little did I know then that about 3 years later, I would be giving over that same Torah at my grandfather's Shloshim. 2 weeks ago, at the end of Parshas Vayera, we learned about the Akedah. Reb Shlomo says the first time the words Yiskadel Yiskadel Shmei Rabba, the first time the concept of someone saying that God's name should be great were ever said was by Yitzchak Avinu on the Akedah. We all know that when Yitzchak was on the Akedah, Rashi says that Sarah Yemenu heard what was happening, and then her soul left her body. So two things were happening here. On the one hand, Yitzchak Avinu was tied down to an altar with his father standing over him, about to shept him, and he's saying that God's name should be great. And on the other hand, Yitzchak Avinu felt that his mother just left the world, and he's saying that God's name should be great. To me, it was very confusing. And the question of Shlomo asks on it is that why is this the first time that a Jew, that someone said that God's name should be great? And if Shlomo answers because at that exact moment, when absolutely nothing in the world makes sense to us, all that a Jew has left to say is that God's name should be great. To me, this Torah encompasses who Zaidy was. Whether it's a member of the JDL or being a loving husband, father, grandfather, Zaidy was someone who, to me, always, always, always put the Torah and the desires of Hashem before his own needs or wants. I mean, who else would in the bush with a wheelchair over him and not call for help only because he was in the middle of davening? Long story short, he left the house and he was going to daven with his little electric wheelchair, scooter, and he left before us, and me and Bobby went to go make sure he got there okay. Bobby and I went to make sure that he got there okay. The Hebrews. So we got there, and the scooter wasn't parked outside. So we said maybe we went to a different shul, this and that, so let's go inside and see. And as I was walking into the door of the shul, I saw that in the corner in the bushes, there was 2 wheels sticking up. And I go over, And there he is, laying under his electric scooter, but he wouldn't scream for help because he started davening before he left the house, and he didn't want to talk in the middle of davening. So thank God we went to check on him, and I remember very vividly Bobby screaming at him, and he just wouldn't respond, and she was screaming and screaming and screaming. Yeah, and he wouldn't respond.
It was terrible.
And he wouldn't
It
respond.
was terrifying.
Yeah, it was a very
That scooter weighed
terrifying.
500 pounds. We couldn't even get it open.
It's a
And
little
he
bit
was
exaggerated.
just so. And he was so placid. He said, no, if somebody would help me, he knew somebody's going to help.
Well, he said that after he finished davening. Just to end off, I was reading this past week's Parsha of Chayei Sarah, and the Lubavitch Rebbe asked the classic question in Parsha: why is the Parsha called Chayei Sarah if the entire Parsha deals with Sarah's death? Why is it called the life of Sarah if it talks about everything that happened after Sarah passed away? And the answer is very, very beautifully and clearly, and for me, it really sums up everything that we're doing here today and everything that we as a family strive for and want to be. He says that just the real testimony of someone's life is the way the family deals with it after they pass away. And the entire Parsha of Chayei Sarah talks about what Yitzchak did and how Avram dealt with it and how Yitzchak got married and went on and built a family and really started the foundation of Judaism. And that's why it's called the life of Sarah, because that was the biggest testimony that we can give to Sarah Imenu. So I bless you all, and please bless me back, that each one of us should have the strength and courage to take something, anything that we learned from Zaidy, and not only to incorporate it into our lives, but to have the schools to teach to our children and to our children's children, until the day comes when Zaidy will be with us again and continue teaching us and showing us what it means to live like a Jew in this world. Amen.
Eitan doesn't want me to say things in between every speaker, so next we have Eitan. Speaking for Eliana. No, Eitan for Eitan, and then...
First Eliana.
Okay.
After Eitan finishes, can you speak in between?
I didn't tell him that I was speaking beforehand, so he got off the hook.
It doesn't matter.
I don't know.
He's smart.
My theme is Saba's life as a contradiction. Yitzhak said many stories, and some of those things I didn't see, some things he saw that I'm sure I'm going to say that he's going to say. I don't believe that, but that's what my theme will be. But I'm going to say Eliana's speech first. Okay. So she says.
Eliana's...
Oh, you can say Eliana. No,
Eliana has
give a
the
story
voice.
about
Are we
Eliana.
allowed to say that? Eliana has laryngitis, so she can't speak for herself.
Just
She doesn't have laryngitis, somebody said she has laryngitis. She just lost her voice.
It's for the record, okay?
Here we go. Here we go.
It's Polish, you have to speak in front of them.
Let's go.
Right.
I know that there are many stories that I can say about Saba, but to go along with the spirit of November and our Thanksgiving tradition, I felt that I would say what I'm thankful for.
Wait, you're off the hook now.
No, it's
That was it.
Oh,
I'm thankful to Saba for being my mother and sister. Without her, myself, brothers, and our families would not be here too. And then insert whatever you're thinking. I'm thankful to Saba for marrying Savta and bringing our families so smoothly together. I'm so thankful to have all my cousins, aunts, and uncles, and to know how much of a loving family we are all together. I'm thankful for Saba's broad shoulders, as this has become the deeper later recognizable trait. I know that this trait will be sent down for many generations, including Eliana too. I'm thankful for Saba's strength and courage to fight for our people. I've heard so many stories about what he has done. Many of them I was shocked yet proud to know it was my Saba who had a hand in protecting Jews, not only in the United States, but around the world. I'm thankful for Saba being such a strong spouse of Saba, especially towards the end. I know how much you loved him, even when Saba was trying to pull the mask off his face, and he said, I know you're not going to pull that mask off. And the tone you use lovingly to your students. Like on that part. I'm thankful for my mother being so strong during all the time Saba was in the hospital, making sure he and everyone was comfortable, and really showing us kibbud others. Although Saba may have been a quiet man at times, I'm thankful for his kind words every time I saw him, and his love for me and Baruch, Eli. Saba was a great patriarch of this great mishpacha. Will be missed. But I know I can remember all the things he has given me and forever be thankful. I'm going to give 2 quick stories, hopefully quick. So, I remember when I was potty training.
We all remember it, right?
I was 7 and a half. That's how I remember it. My mother trained me by saying, get naked and go into the bathroom and do your business and then let us know when you're done. So I remember it was one Shabbos lunch, we were by Saba and Saba's house. And I remember taking off my clothes without anyone knowing and running out of the bathroom after I went to the bathroom and saying I did it. Everyone was so proud. Everyone was proud. What I do remember was Saba sitting there with his stern look. This is not a place for a naked baby. Had the Shabbos take place. So he was very serious about that.
It happens still this day,
I fortunately had the opportunity to be Saba's accomplice on many occasions. I remember when I was young and he started not being able to eat other stuff that we could eat, like cake and meat and chicken. And I sat next to Saba at the Shabbos table often. He would make sure to sneak a few crumbs off my plate, some steak off my plate. But that was my special opportunity. As I got older and learned how to drink, Saba got to steal a few shots from me, so that was my special treat. I didn't tell you before he passed away. Actually, one more story, and I told many of you this on during Shiva, and I thought it was apropos for Saba and Saba's relationship. One Shabbos, I think I was there by myself. It must have been 11 or 12. Went to shoot Barakaway for davening at 8 o'clock in the morning. I remember we had to get there like 7:15. It was brutal. I don't know what it was, but whatever it was earlier than the minute. So no one was ever. So yeah, okay. So every Shabbos, Saba would go walk to Savta, pick her up in young Israel of Barakaway, and on the way, on the block of the shul, there was this little cinder block of the sidewalk, and Saba literally fell, and just fell like a rock. And his chest stopped his face from hitting the ground because it was so big.
Oh my God.
And 11-year-old looking at your grandfather falling straight down, like heart attack, something like that, turns to me, like his arm, like, don't you tell Saba. I cut the stress. Anyway, as I was saying, my theme is Saba, Life of Contradictions. So Saba actually, I wrote this, something similar for his living eulogy, where it was. I had a few little twists on it. Whenever Saba said I love you, or other compassionate words to his children, or her great-grandchildren, to be able to see his warm, affectionate resonance of his words, which were always at odds with his rough, strong, and opinionated individual that everyone loved and knew to be a pillar and strength of our family. Put Saba at the bosom of his family, or among his closest friends, for example, Benedict, and his warm passions instinctively flowed. He was relaxed, warm, loving, and sometimes even goaded. I put Saba elsewhere, and he invariably became introverted, and some might say even shy. With Saba, he was deferential and almost subservient. But with others, it was quite the opposite. He was intransigent. It was his way or the highway. Such was Saba's contradictory nature. Because Saba spoke his mind with an uninhibited frankness and did not much care for what anyone else thought of him, he often infuriated any ideological detractors, while his friends and supporters of the JDL showered him with an innate trust. No one had any doubt who Saba was. He never wore a mask. Everyone knew that Saba was the embodiment of loyalty and pride. If Mayor Kahana was Don Corleone's godfather, Saba was Mayor Kahana's legal prosecutor. However, this is a contradiction in and of itself. Everyone thought they knew who Saba was, but very few got to see both sides of Saba. People thought that he was a strong man with a heart of a lion, but didn't really see his emotional, loving side, like we saw at our family gatherings or celebrations. His unadulterated convictions and passion for Tefillah, Zionism, and the protection of the Jewish people could not be matched. In the words of Winston Churchill, if you have an important point to make, don't try to be subtle or clever. Use a pile driver. It's hit the point once, then come back and hit it again, then hit it a third time, a tremendous whack. Saba is the personification of this idea.
Yeah, I'm going.
Tati, I think Deborah has her time limit.
Yeah?
No, you're okay? I'm fine, she's okay.
Because I really wanted to call this Phoenix as the, because I was the, I guess the second level of grandchildren, I'm not among Yehuda, Eitan, Yufa, and Tari, and the head, I guess, of like my echelon of grandchildren, whatever, was Tzvi, and really like Tzvi going
Yeah, where does Scott fit in?
Zabs is the youngest of the other.
Really? I'm older than Sweet.
You're the youngest of the higher.
And what about Eliana?
Sorry.
Eitan spoke for Eliana.
Wow. It's fine, I spoke for them. Oh my God, he's next.
Okay, she's next.
We're all here.
It's okay.
I'm not speaking.
Kazi didn't play with me.
Actually, she was always doing homework, right?
It was Tzvi, Josh, Dorian, Elsie, Lo. Kazi wasn't there.
David, your Zaidy is showing.
Here's Zaidy. Well, that's gonna be something. Yeah, that's
I was kind of on the fence about whether I was going to be saying anything today or if I wanted to write something down. The whole experience has been really difficult since. So I'm just gonna try and go off the cuff and say a couple of memories. I find that I've learned a lot from Zay, even though I don't always know if he was trying to teach me anything. But sometimes he was definitely trying to teach me things. But even in moments when he wasn't trying to give a little lesson, I found that I was still able to learn things from him. And I wrote this actually when we did the memory book for Zay. It was one of my greatest accomplishments. Was the one time that I. It was the one time that I beat Zay in casino.
What?
Oh, it happened, I promise. And as everyone in this family knows, and as it has been said numerous times, whenever you played card games or any games with Bobby, you would always win, and whenever you played Zay, you would always lose. And I noticed this. It must have been a while ago. I wasn't old enough to really understand what was going on, but at the same time, I knew the game, and I played with Zay every Shabbos that we were there, so I guess I got rather good at it. And I noticed that I kept on losing, and whenever I would play anyone else, I kept on, especially Bobby, I kept winning. And I remember I asked Zay about this one time, and honestly, the conversation that took place after that escapes me. I think I was younger, I don't remember it quite well, but what I took from that whole experience was that things that matter are things that you're going to have to work for. And life just doesn't hand you these kind of things, and they certainly didn't hand victories. So when I finally won, and it was by the slimmest of margins too. I think I haven't played the game forever. I don't even remember how the points go anymore, but I remember that it was very close, and I finally beat Zay. And I was whooping and hollering all throughout the house, and I just remember that he would just, he had this way, and I don't know if anybody saw this, but when he was proud of you, but he wasn't always verbal about it. It was the smile that he had, where he would look at you, and you could see the pride, the natas that he was getting from you was coming. So when he finally won, it's I mention this story anytime throughout the shiva and the process, but I remember there was one particular time when we were over in the Far Rockaway house, well, the latest Far Rockaway house, for Shabbos, and Zay sent Moshe, Ephraim, and I downstairs to get some seltzer. And Mo and I weren't, I guess, very careful with the seltzer because we charged up the stairs holding bottles of seltzer in our hand. So of course we hand the seltzer to Zay and he opens it and it explodes everywhere. And honestly, once again, I don't, maybe it's like I erased the stress from my mind. I have no memory of what happened after that. But the one thing that I remember is that Zay, as always, we were cleaning up the table and whatever, and he just gave me that look, like, huh. I guess that one's mine. And I'm happy about that. You know, that's the kind of feeling that I got from it. A couple other stories I guess I just wanted to randomly mention. We were talking, Mich was talking a little bit about consistency. So there were certain moments that I got to share with Zaidy, and I don't know if I was uniquely sharing them, but Eitan was talking about drinks a little bit. So whenever Zay would come over to Shabbos, and there was always a Budweiser waiting in the fridge, like a can, like yay big. And so every single time we would start serving drinks. And Dib would go and make the lemonade, and we would fight over whose job it was to fill up the water pitcher that week. And Zay would turn to me, because I was sat next to him, and he said, can you get me my beer? Well, I don't think it ever came out like that. He said, I have beer in the fridge. So that was always something I did for Zay. When we used to sit next to each other in shul, I guess before Dib started going and staying regularly, so I always had that seat. And I would always help Zay with his talis. After shul, and especially anyone who did Shabbos table at our house or with Zay, anytime after we pointed this out, it made it a thing, but Zay had certain things that he liked to interject in his miros, like oilamim, and that became kind of a rallying cry for our family, and I don't know how it permeated throughout the rest of the family, but I remember one specific time, Sim and I were walking through a kind of an iffy neighborhood. I think we were going to or from a concert, and we were going through the A-train. And we were kind of talking back and forth about how it was, it's kind of shady neighborhood, and we weren't sure, and we need to like look tough and pick our hoods up and everything like that. And we came to it, tough face, right? I could make it work, but so then I don't remember who came up with this idea, but the general consensus that we came to at the time was that if anybody started to bother us, all I would have to do is I would have to pull out my necklace, and I would show it to the guy in his face, and I would say, I love him. And he would say, oh wait, you're one of Chaim Bieber's kids, I'm sorry. Yeah, so, on our own.
Deborah.
I really.
No, I ordered this without a moment's notice.
First of all, also it's a moment's notice, that's okay. I'm not rushing to somewhere else on purpose. I'm filling in for my brother who's missing all kinds of sporting events with his kids. So I was already at one basketball game, I'm going to another one. That's why. Someone gave me this letter that my mother wrote after Chaim passed away. For those of you who don't know me, my parents are Bennett and Linda. My father and mother were friends with Chaim and some of her ever from my whole childhood. I'll read the letter now. Say something. Okay. Because it brings me up to actually what Eitan said about the passivity, but okay. One of my biggest memories. This is from my mother that she wrote to my dearest Selma. I know that Chaim was one of the most connected people to Hashem, as well as a true Jewish hero. He davened with such kavana and sincerity. If someone needed a refuah to be said, to whom did you go? To Chaim, because you knew his heart was always into his davening. No fanfare, just sincere, meaningful prayers would come from his heart and mouth to reach Hashem. Chaim's Avina in Hashem never wavered. We are never ready for a beloved one to die. We know that Hashem makes the decisions, even though we are suffering a severe devastation.
that will never go away. We can't even ask why. We are human beings who do the best we can, and in the end, we have to accept whatever judgment Hashem makes. At this time, we have to work so hard to keep our emunah in Hashem. When two people are so much a part of one another, the grieving is painful and leaves a hole in your heart that never goes away. Like the highest peak of a strong mountain that falls to the ground and can never be replaced. That mountain becomes smaller because it is now without a most valuable part. But the real strength is in the foundation of the mountain, and you have to find the strength in yourself because Chaim's strength was also your strength. You and Chaim are the focus of each other's lives. No one can ever know that realm of your existence. You will always miss him because you are connected to each other in every possible way. You need courage, you need strength. You need to keep your emunah in Hashem. Selma, you are truly blessed by Hashem with the most amazing, kind, and supportive family that has always loved, respected, admired, and adored you and will continue to do so. I love you so much, Selma. With a loving heart, it's Linda. So one of my biggest childhood memories is my brother Charles was a very difficult child. He has 9 of his own children today, Blia and Hara, and some of them are exactly Charles, and I'm getting the sickest satisfaction watching it right now. It's crazy. But at one point during high school, I moved out of the house for a week. I wanted to make a statement to my parents, and I said, I can't live with Charles anymore, that's it. I'm moving into Chaim and Selma's house. And Chaim and Selma welcomed me with open arms, and Chaim and Selma were amazing to me for 2 days. And on the 3rd day, Bennett Levine came to the house. And I said, Daddy, what are you doing here? And it had been Chaim, not Selma, who called him and said, why is she here? She should be at home. Send him. Charles shouldn't be in the house. And then Charles got exiled to Chaim and Selma. And Charles remembers that so much. He does. And he still talks about it. And my niece Atara, Charles's oldest, got married in June, and I came in from Israel for the wedding. And it was so important for me to make the time to go see Chaim and Selma. And I was so happy afterwards that I did. And unbeknownst to me or to any of us, the morning of Atara's wedding, Charles disappeared. And we didn't know where Charles was. And when he came back to the house in Morocco, he said to me, I went to go see Chaim today because Daddy's not here with Mommy. And it was so important for me to go see Chaim because Chaim was such an important part of our childhood and so special to all of us. And because Daddy wasn't there, I needed to go see Chaim. And he gave him a book. And Chaim gave him a book. But anyway. Chaim's memory should be a blessing to every single person in this room.
I was just advised by a higher authority that it's time for mincha. So,
We can do Mara later.
and whoever needs to speak or say anything, you have time to do it. But here is
You know it's fine, I can edit it.
the ladies can stay here.
Army before I started college, I decided to come to New York and work. So I stayed by South for about 6 months. This was about 10 years ago. I'm going to start off the story by saying that Bob is probably one of the most consistent people I know. She's also an on-time person, just like me.
What?
Very few people in the family who are on-time people.
So we're not saying that.
So, me and Saba used to butt heads a lot. We would argue about the most random stuff. So there are 2 stories I want to tell. The first story was on Tisha B'Av. We drove to the Young Israel, and Saba parked on like the side of the shul. And I saw that this tree fell down, and Saba was reversing, and I thought to myself, do I say something? Do I not say something? If I say there's a tree there, he's going to be like, I see it. Obviously. So I decided I wasn't going to say anything, and Saba reversed, and sure enough, he hit the car, he hit the tree, and he says to me, he goes, "Why didn't you tell me there was a tree there?" That was the first. Now, I remember I was at the house, and me and Saba were arguing about something, and I said to him, "How do you daven in Hebrew if you don't understand the words?" So this started a very big argument, and it ended in a very, very nice way. He said, "When I go to I like music. As everyone knows, Saba played music, and he enjoyed watching the orchestra, no matter what language it was in, if it was in French or German or Italian. And he said, it's just so beautiful. It doesn't matter if I understand what it means." You know, I didn't really understand that until this week, when I went with my beautiful wife. We went to see the Israeli Philharmonic Orchestra play at Carnegie Hall, and I didn't understand anything, but it was very beautiful. And now I know what Saba meant when he said it. Exactly. And, you know, parts of it were more, but it was still very uplifting, and you know, those are the memories that I have, and I was lucky that I was able to live by them for like 6 months, and it was mostly good, you know. We used to eat a lot. Right? No pretzels ever. Well, me and Saba used to finish like a whole pack of hot dogs, and just like with the buns and everything. So that's probably where I got my big appetite from. But I see a lot of similarity in how I am looking at Saba. He was my son, my breed son. Someone said, I don't remember who it was. Shmaya. So I was just grateful that I was here for good and for having bad, and I was happy to spend his last Rosh Hashanah with him together, and have the great minion that Uncle H did. Those are the things that I'll remember about my grandfather.
When Zaidy started to not get well, you know, Moshe wasn't around, Yehuda wasn't around, I wasn't around in my house. At the very beginning, Mendy was around, wasn't around. It was also back and forth. He got married, but Sani really stepped up to the plate in such an unbelievable way. And I think I can speak for all of us about how the amount of hakaras hatov, the amount of gratitude we have towards Sani for all the unbelievable things that he was able to do for Zaidy in the last 2 years or so, you know. And Sani.
Zaidy identified with Sonny because Sonny is a master contractor. And he bought Zaidy tools, and he bought him a case with screwdrivers and this and that. Right?
Before I start, only because I asked him and he said he's not speaking, I do want to give big kudos to Mendy. Over the last 2 weeks of Mendy's life, doing all the doctoring with him, so I didn't have the quite out the guts to do it, but I know Mendy did it, and I want to just put out there the kudos to Mendy for doing that. I prepared 2 speeches. The first one I was going to do, I was going to pick up Chaim Simcha Jr., hold him up like Simba and Lion King, and show him the legacy that I didn't think my wife would like that, so I didn't do that. We'll leave that. But I was also told I had to say Dvar Torah from the Parsha, so I'm going to try to say something small quickly. I know everyone's eating, so I want to ignore me, so I could. In this week's Parsha, it's interesting because one of the things I noticed a lot about Zaidy, and I put in the memories book, was he always had a chumash with him. Chumash was sitting, he was always doing tehillah and chumash siddur. He was always doing something learning. In this week's Parsha, we go through the story of Ephraim and Avram. They were trying. Avram was trying to buy the Mars Machpelah to bury Sarah. And there's one point where it says Ephraim without a vav in his name. It's Ayin Fei Reish Nun. And Rashi goes on a whole rant how it's without a vav and it's without a vav and it's missing the vav. And there's many different pshat in the Balakura right here says quickly that Ephraim without the vav is gematria of 400, which is the same as Ra Ayin, or Ayin Ra, a bad eye. Ephraim without the vav is his whole focus, which we'll see what the vav means shortly, but his whole focus was the money. He wanted the 400 shekel, he wanted the 400 oivel ha-sefer kesef, that was universal coins, and that was his focus. He didn't think about anything else, he didn't think about his family, he didn't think about the town, he knew he had a business deal. In fact, he was the lowest man on the totem pole in the town, and it was his property that Avram wanted, so he felt this was his chance to shine, and his focus was the 400. It's interesting, there's 4 times to play up and play down, there's 4 times where there was a concept of 400 that was a bad time. The first one was Ephraim, that we learned, not that it was a bad time, but we learned out a lesson. The second time was the Mitzrayim. Klal Yisrael was supposed to be Mitzrayim for 400 years. The third time was, or actually the second time before Mitzrayim, was Esav when he was coming to attack Yaakov, was with 400 men. You know, the kids learned the song Esav was coming with 400 men, right? And the fourth time was with David HaMelech. Later on, he was going to a town called Carmeli to fight Abishalom. I think it was Abishalom, and he went with 400 men to go attack the town. So we see this concept of 400. Ephraim was bad, he was missing the vav, and it's interesting also, Vayakim stay Ephraim, the next pasuk after the story, Vayakim stay Ephraim, the first 3 letters backwards is Esav, so he obviously had wrong intentions, he was focused on the wrong thing. So what's this whole concept of the vav? So there's a special thing about a vav. The vav we know is a vav keyboard, connects. It makes this connection point. In fact, we know Yisrael, which is Klal Yisrael, Kutcha Brichu, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Vayrayis, and Torah Chad, who are one. How are they all one? So there's 3 ways to spell a vav. Vav, vav. Vav, Aleph, Vav, Vav, Yud, Vav. Vav, Vav is 12, is the 12 Shloshim is Yisrael. Vav, Aleph, Vav is 13, is the 13 Ani Mamin, is Kutcha Barichu, is HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And Vav, Yud, Vav is 22, which is Araisa, the 22 letters of the Torah. And there's a connection between these 3 things that the Vav connects. So we could learn from Ephraim, there's a lesson from Ephraim, that he was missing the Vav, he was missing the connection of doing a deal with Avram to benefit someone else or to benefit his town. He was missing that connection of having a connection with someone else. It was always to himself. It was his 400 that he was focused. One of the many things that I've heard from Zaidy, and people discuss this, was Zaidy's ability to connect. He is connected to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, connected to Klal Yisrael, his connection and love for Eretz Yisrael, his devotion and connection to his family, which I've seen many, many times. And again, I'm only here a couple of years. I'm sure people know it longer. But in fact, I have some of my workers, when I went to tell them that Zaidy was nifter, all of them said to me, wow, he was a special man. Like he exuded that, I don't know what the proper word is, but that specialness. He connected, he had that special connection. There was one story I wanted to say over, that I felt was Zaidy, I'm not a story really, but there's something that I do, it's a personal thing that I do. Whenever something happens, be it in Klal Yisrael or in my life personally, I try to find a pasuk in davening that I use to remember that and have a connection to that episode or that story. Some of the few that stick out is the 3 boys in Eretz Yisrael, Naftali, Gilad, and Ayal. When I say Kadosh, 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 and Volatziyah, they come to mind. The 4 Kedoshim Hanoich, Baruch Hashem Kavod and when I say those 4 words, I heard once a shir on school for Parnassus, V'shahat Oisoi Al Yarach HaMizbeach, right after Kavanah, so I had much. So I remember Shabbos morning, I'm davening in shul, it was right after Sukkot, and it was toward the end of raining, it was almost Haftarah, and Mendy came into shul, he was on his way to shul, and he came in to tell me. And I said to myself, I said, Zaidy was a special man, we all know it. I have a connection to him. In fact, I have a bigger connection to him. And I said, how am I going to, what pasuk can I find to help me remember Zaidy? And right after we finished the prayer, we started Musaf on Shabbos, and we say this in every Shemona Esrei. The second bracha, we say, Baruch Hashem, Magen Avram. And the word Magen it just hit me. Zaidy was a Magen. He was a shield, he was a protector. Be it for his family, be it for Klal Yisrael, be it for his love for Eretz Yisrael, he was there as a protector. And it's something that I'm going to take with me every time I dance the Esrei. It's a memory that I will keep with Zaidy. And just remember his connection and his love for his family and Klal Yisrael. And hope that he will be a Melos Yeshiv for the entire family, and be a Libar, like Rebbe said, be a Libar up in Shemayim, and be a Moggin in Shemayim, and also help Chazi and I in the right Hadracha, obviously for Chama also, but specifically for Chaim Simcha, to help him grow up in his derech.
We're coming close. There's not many people left, but I forgot who it was that said to Bobby that the last 10 months with Zaidy was a gift. I don't remember who it was. Auntie Donna said it. I don't know if everyone knows, but when Zaidy first got sick last year, I visited him in the hospital until right before Tuesday, when Moshe and I went to go pick up his stuff from Grandville. I didn't visit him at all, not even once, which is probably the only regret I have in my life today at all. And when right before, I think right before Zaidy got sick that time, it was like maybe on a Sunday or on a Monday or something like that. I don't know. I don't remember exactly what day of the week it was. But I was home that Shabbos right before, and I remember that Zaidy had said to me at the Shabbos meal, we must have been arguing about something, or maybe I was arguing. Me and him were arguing with each other against someone else. Maybe it could have been a tag team, or maybe it was a Dvar Torah. I don't know. Something was happening, and he turned to me and he said, "You're good, kid." And he said that to me, and I was too scared to see him in the hospital or in Grandel after that, because I didn't want to have anything after that moment, and I didn't. And so when he was getting out of Grandel, I was like, okay, he's better. I can go see him, And it wasn't like that this last time he was in the hospital. Like I came down right away, because I learned my mistake from that time, But I guess it falls back to when Ella and I were very, very little. We used to go visit Special Grandpa. I remember visiting Special Grandpa, and I remember, do you remember that? No? I remember we used to go visit Special Grandpa. And I also remember, I don't remember when it was, maybe it was at the unveiling or something, I don't remember when it was. I was very little, I was 3 years old. I remember that we drove the car up to the cemetery, and everyone was there, and I didn't want to get out of the car, because all I had memories of Special Grandpa. I remember at that time, I remember thinking to myself, the only memories I have of him are him in the hospice. That's when he was in the hospice, and I didn't like those memories. And and that fear really, really blocked me. And I guess I'm grateful that I got to see Zaidy right before, and I got to spend time with him. I didn't let the fear of that block me from seeing him. I remember Bobby said to me, "Don't go to the hospital to see him. I don't want you to see him like this." And I said to her, I was like, I don't care what you want. I said, he's my grandfather. I don't really care if you want. And she's like, you're right. And I don't know what it was like for anybody else, but thinking about that memory with Special Grandpa. I remember when I found out do you remember when we found out that Special Grandpa passed away?
I literally.
No memory? We were jumping on Chavale's bed, and someone came in and told us that Special Grandpa wasn't with us anymore. We were jumping on Chavale's bed.
I know, I don't know how he remembers.
Yeah, it was an extremely profound.
Down, dropping a basket.
It was an extremely profound.
Down, dropping a basket. Whistle alive.
Either way, our next speaker is going to be Al.
Yeah, I remember nothing.
I remember nothing, but I'll My grandfather. Okay, I wasn't planning on speaking until a little bit ago, so I also just have a few disjointed
we got it, and I don't know who started this conversation. We were talking about like, we got into this whole discussion about like how Indian names make no sense, and Zaidy went off on this rant about how they're ridiculous, and it's just like words just put together and it makes a name, and he's like, it's all like Big Chief Rain in the Face. It makes no sense. What does that mean? Yeah, Big Chief Rain in the Face, and it became this joke. And we found a T-shirt in those catalogs that come every year, and they had like all the funny things on them. And one of the T-shirts said, "My Indian name is Runs with Beer," and I was like, "Oh my God, we have to get this for Zaidy. It's perfect." And we went back and forth deciding whether or not we were going to. I don't think in the end we got it because they're like he'll literally never put it on his body.
They probably didn't cut it enough either.
Right, that's true. So we didn't get it, but I just thought of that for a second. Okay, so I have two stories. One I don't remember happening, but I'm told that it happened, and the other I don't remember. The first one is that I used to love this movie. It was when I was little, I watched this King Arthur and the Knights of the Round Table cartoon movie, and I didn't know how to say horse, and I didn't know how to say movie. It was the horsey movie, for whatever reason, I couldn't say either of those words, and it became the hushy mushy, and I watched this movie constantly, and until I literally broke it, because I watched it so many times. It had the tape, the cassette, oh my God, legit. Something happened to it, and Bobby always tells me that instead of finding the movie, like a new one, elsewhere and getting it for me, Zaidy took, it had to be that one, that cassette, he took it to a repair, I don't know, like where you go to repair cassettes, Arnold's Photo, and paid $25 so that I could have my hushy mushy.
And then when Bobby yelled at him, "Why did you spend $25 to fix the movie?"
Yeah. And then
it's a hushy bushy heaven. It's expensive to just throw away.
We might still have it with the videos. We have videos.
well, we're
We go to the Smithsonian every year to go look at it.
$10 is going to be worth money one day.
And that's just the person that Zaidy was. That if you wanted something or something made you happy, then you had to have it. And I know that I experienced this a lot with Zaidy. I remember when I got my first big haircut, I had that long braid down to my butt, and one day I chopped off a foot of it, and I donated it, and I wasn't scared to cut my hair, and I wasn't scared of any of those things. I wasn't nervous at all. I was dreading seeing Zaidy with my short hair, because he was always saying "Oh, you got enough of that for me, and I'll make a wig out of that. And I would love to have your hair on my head." And a couple of people have said already, Zaidy was really consistent. Zaidy was not into change at all, and I was really, really nervous about what he was going to say when he saw that I had no more hair. And he kind of did that thing where he would pretend. No, he was just "Oh, you look so beautiful," just kind of glossed over it, and maybe went to another room and cried about it later. But to me, he was "Oh, you look, oh, that's so nice," just short, didn't, say anything, and I don't know if he was upset about it or not, but it didn't matter because he didn't want me to be upset about it. I think I was only, 8 or 9, and, he just, always, and he was very passionate, and he would, talk very passionately about everything, and, we would argue and all those things, but at the end of the day, he didn't ever want anyone in his family to be upset. He would never say things that he knew would hurt you, or he knew would upset you, and, I went to Florida when I was 17, and I went to the aquarium, and I saw the dolphin show, and I came home and I said, I found my calling, I'm going to be a dolphin trainer. It's going to happen, I'm telling you, and Zaidy was just okay, and I really expected take him to be like, that's the stupidest thing I've ever heard. Like, how are you going to do that? And you hate the water. And, and he had done, he did ask me, he said, oh, and how are you going to do that? And I was like, well, I'm just going to. And he said, oh. And I had so much of this even now, like every 5 minutes. I'm like, I'm going to be an interior designer. I'm going to be a photographer. I'm going to, do all those things. And everything I ever said to Zaidy, he was just like, okay, whatever makes you happy. Good luck with that. And it was like a little condescending because I didn't think he really did. But, he still was just like, cool, whatever makes you happy. I just remember Zaidy as someone who that was the most important thing. The only thing is that everyone that he loves and everyone in his family should just be happy and should just, love whatever they're doing, and even if it was the most ridiculous thing. And he would tell you if it was the most ridiculous thing, but after he would get it out, it would be like, all right, whatever makes you happy, good luck with that. And I just know that whatever I do end up doing, whenever that happens, that Zaidy's gonna be like, cool, you got it. Okay.
Okay, we only have 2 speakers left from what my count is, and if you do want to speak, you can speak after the next person, just let me know. But as much as Zaidy had a very big ego, okay? He did. And as much as Zaidy had a very, very big ego, Bobby didn't. And doesn't. And all of the toughness that I learned from Zaidy was very much encountered by the softness that I learned from Bobby.
And Griffin doesn't get her own introduction.
Okay, I usually don't write down.
I have the paper that
No,
my
but-
speech from my bar mitzvah.
I had mine till you got 8 years.
And I had this, I gave it to you.
Oh, you do write everything.
Sometimes I do.
For important occasions.
No, I didn't think I'd be able to speak this time without writing it down. And I did it this morning. When I was sitting Shiva, I heard someone ask, which children belong to whom? Obviously, when you look around this room, it's clear that each and every one of you belong to both of us in one way or another. Right? Secondly, there's something wrong with this picture. Showing your feelings at a Shloshim, it's very meaningful, but these words should be done when the person who you're speaking about is still alive to hear them and is able to share that moment. Okay, we hope that, right? Don't let time slip by you and have regrets later. Although we do believe that the person is not physically here, but that they are here. Since Zaidy isn't here, it's now up to me to guide you in the path he would have wanted. He was never shy in saying what he believed, so none of this will be a surprise to anyone here. To honor his memory and to follow, my hands are shaking, but I'm going to do it. In his derech means to be a good and courageous Jew and to live your life l'shem shamayim. The last word I ever heard him say was when Mendy did Birkas Kohanim for him before Shmini Atzeres. And at the end he answered with a clear and loud amen. For his life to not have been in vain, you have to follow in his large footsteps. Grandchildren, you hear me? Last, I always believed you have to marry your best friend. It's really a problem, though, when that part of you is no longer here. I, unfortunately, also lost my Plan B best friend when she died a year ago. I thank Hashem every day for my family. I have to especially, he's going to kill me, thank my Stephen for taking care of Zaidy for years, taking him to the doctor, taking him to the gym, even when it became more difficult and he was schlepping the wheelchair and the walker, coming in the middle of the night when he fell, scooping him up from the floor, stopping the blood from bleeding. He was 100% not a son-in-law from the get-go. I think that you got that sense when he spoke. He was our child, just like all of our children's spouses and their children. They all belong to the both of us. And I thank you all for everybody's help, everybody's good intentions, not only for coming here and doing this, but for the last 4 weeks. And before that, for all those difficult, trying times when it was so hard. Thank you.
I want to apologize to Caitlin because I had forgotten that Caitlin wanted to speak. So Caitlin, I'm sorry.
Okay.
So Caitlin will be our next speaker.
I want to speak from here because if I stand, I might fall down. So as many of you know, I'm married in, and I've only had the pleasure of knowing Zaidy for almost 5 years. And the one thing that always struck out and stuck out and continues to, and that he's gifted to so many of you, and that you carry through life, is your automatic caring and love and acceptance of another person. I lost my grandfathers when I was 3, so I never got to meet them. I never got to develop a relationship with them. But being with Zaidy for the short time that I had, not a lifetime, not a childhood, but an adulthood, I was able to see the twinkle in his eye, and we were both morning people, and when he'd be by my in-laws for Shabbos and we were also there, I'd wake up, it'd be like 5 in the morning, and there'd be Zaidy sitting in his chair, and we'd have a schmooze. He's like, "Why are you awake?" And I'm like, "Why are you awake?" And we just continue what's going on in your life and how are things. But there was never a moment of who's this person and what's going on. It was, she makes a grandson of mine so happy, and we'll build from there, and we'll go from there. And and even through this last year, there's never been a moment where he's not happy to see you and happy to go on and enjoying the family that that he has. And you should all be so proud and so grateful, and no matter what happens, to carry that with you, and to be so proud to carry that sparkle, that twinkle, that something extra, that love for other human beings with you everywhere you go, because it's totally there and totally available, and I feel it every single day. I felt it from him, and I feel it from each member of this family that I'm so blessed and lucky to be a part of. So we'll miss him, and I'm so lucky to have had that time, as short as it was. But I'm even more grateful that he's given that over to all of you, and that I get to thrive and be in that love and that acceptance and that knowledge every single day for the rest of my life by being a part of this family. So That's it.
And Rifki, if you will pardon me for one more, I was just informed.
This just in.
This just in. Moshe has sent something that he would like to be said, and I believe kind of you'll be reading it in Moshe Ephraim and.
So Moshe wrote this today when he went to go to Zaidy's kever, I guess. Zaidy, I'm sitting on the ground at your kever, the place where 30 days ago I cried my eyes out in an attempt to say goodbye. Hey, kidding, I can't read.
Zaidy, I'm sitting on the ground at your kever, the place that 30 days ago I cried my eyes out in an attempt to say goodbye. I send you up to Hashem wholeheartedly. My life for the last 30 days has been a series of ups and downs and missing. Very similarly to when I started my life-changing journey in recovery. In recovery, I try every day to seek where I'm letting Hashem into my life, and where I see I'm not, I try to bring Him in. Zaidy, since you left, I've been asking myself similar questions. Am I living my life with the lessons that you tried to teach me? Am I practicing the bravery and courage, the love, the way that you exemplified for me? Am I seeing the struggles in my life as impossibles or as difficulties that Hashem gave me to push through? Am I living the way you did? Am I letting things get in the way of my relationship with Hashem, or is my life about that relationship like yours was? I ask myself these questions daily, sometimes in tears. I ask myself these things for two reasons. One, because I know that's how you want me to live, and two, because this is my way of holding on. My way of holding on. Which way do I swipe this stupid thing? My way of holding on to you. This keeps me feeling connected to you, like you're still in my life, guiding me. I truly don't have the words to express how much I miss you and love you. How a whole, how large part of me left when you did, and more than that, how a piece of you stayed here in me. I'm so grateful and happy to Hashem that I was able to give you years of seeing me happy and healthy before you left. I can't imagine how much pain I put you through, with the choices I have made in my past. I need you to know how truly sorry I am for that pain. I also need you to know that without your constant love and support, and that of our whole family, I never would have made it out alive. Thank you for lending me some of your unending strength. Thank you for always fighting for me in your actions and prayers. My hope and prayer, Zay, is that I can get up from here and continue to live in a way that will make you happy and proud to be my Zaidy. I'm missing you so much and holding you with me. Love, Moshe Ephraim.
Maybe you're gonna follow that?
Okay. I'm sorry.
No, don't be sorry. Look at it.
So,
I really wasn't going to speak, and after hearing Moshe's words and Shmai David's saying it over, not to continue in the same vein, but for those who were at the hospital in the last days, Bobby, Blake, Rifki, and Walter, there have been many occasions where I asked you guys to leave the room. And I had private conversations with Zaidy. And basically I told him that there's no more fight in this world for you. You've done all the fighting you can in this world. So I'm sending you with all our brachas and all our prayers to the next battle. The next battle, Zay, is for you to look after us, each and every one of us, and each and every one of your grandchildren, and against some continual great-great-grandchildren, to be up there fighting on our behalf. But the second battle, the bigger battle, is please, 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 do everything that you can do on behalf of Father Show. What you did in this world, you need to do in Olam Haba, and bring this up.
I just want to say before you come up that you're the person in this room that knows Zaidy the longest, you know? I'm so incredibly grateful to everything your father has done for me and in my life, and similar to what Moshe said, I definitely wouldn't have been able to make it out as well if it wasn't for all the things that your father did for me. I personally want to thank you. I really do. I'm so incredibly grateful. And as with that, Achon Achon.
Okay, just let me get my. Just turn off the recorder. No, it's good. Just get an iPad. We can do it.
Oh, they're having the food on the other birthday. You know what, you should gather, somebody should gather our children and close it. You're gonna take our children in.
What are we gonna do? Just wait. Safta, wait. Safta, 5 minutes. Just 5 minutes. Just 5 minutes.
No, they're not gonna hurt them.
It's okay.
Go ahead, Ema.
Well, I just first want to read, Goran had sent something that he wanted me to read. So I'll try my best. The memory of Saba is a strong commitment to what he believed in and doing what's right. I wouldn't have made Aliyah or gone to the army if it wasn't for Saba. My parents, now this line I don't get, but anyway. My parents wouldn't have let me go to Israel at all if it wasn't for Saba, which is not really true. But anyway, I would not have met the love of my life if I didn't make Aliyah. I wouldn't be the person I am today if it wasn't for Saba. I remember one thing that really stuck with me, which is when I was just a kid in Saba and Saba's house. I told Saba I wanted to play chess with him, but he said to me, "But I know I'll win," which means Saba will win. I see now that he wasn't joking. The last thing that I will end off is this. Saba, the one who helped us, guided us, strengthened us. You are a rock. You have left us, but not nothing. You have left behind your courage, honesty, loyalty, and a family that will forever pass on these qualities to our children. And we will tell them where we learned these qualities of life, and they will pass it on to their children and so on. Your memory will live on in all of our hearts, and you will never be forgotten. Thank you for everything you've done for us. We love you. Yes, now you have given us the world. Okay. When I was trying to write down my thoughts and things about Saba, it was very obviously difficult, as I know it was difficult for everybody to pick out one particular story and so on. I was trying to remember something that really stuck in my mind. And one of the things that really stuck in my mind about Saba was that that on Shabbat, he loved to hear Zemiro. He loved when we sang, when we were either all together, or we went to a Shabbat to our house, to any individual family for Shabbat. He loved that. So one thing that I didn't put in my, on paper was that the last Shabbat that Safta and I were in the hospital with Saba, I went down to Bikoholin and brought up grape juice and challah and something for Saba and Safta and I to eat. And Safta and I sang Shalom Aleichem with him. We made bracha, we made kiddush, we made motzi. We had a meal with him. We sang a little bit. We did Birkat Hamazon with him because Shabbat for him was always very special. And I know that you all know that. It was the time everybody's bustling during the week, and it was the only time that he would get to see the family and really be able to enjoy everybody and enjoy the children and really be able to spend time with him. And so it was a very special time with him. And Zemiro, obviously, as we all know, was part of the meal for him, and it was a very important part. So I'm just going to read what I wrote. I can't believe that it's 30 days since Daddy, Saba, Zaidy has passed. It has been very difficult during this time to come to terms that I will no longer see him, talk to him, have him kiss me with one of those wet kisses, or hug me with his big, strong arms. I had so many different memories and thoughts while I was putting these words on paper. One of my memories that I have is how much Daddy loved to sing Zmiro, and how much he loved to be around any of our tables on Shabbat, hearing all of us sing Zmiro together. It would always light up his face. During the time that Daddy was in hospital, Safta had to be strong for the two of them. She gave Daddy all the love, patience, and compassion that a committed wife gives to her committed husband. They were married for, I left this blank because I wasn't sure how many years. There seemed to be a discrepancy. 39 years. And during that time, their most important commitment was to make each other happy. In the last few months that Daddy was home, I was able to spend alone time with him. I realized how much I cherished that time and how close I felt to him. During our time together, one of the many conversations we had were about all of you. He shared with me of how proud he was of each and every one of you. You each filled his life with joy, love, and purpose. Every neshama that is brought into this world serves a very important purpose. I believe that Daddy's purpose was to teach us the support of being Jewish, Milah Chesed, and the love and importance of being part of this family. We are all his heart, his breath, and his life. He will always be a part of each and every one of us, and I know you will treasure Daddy's memories by keeping them alive and sharing them with your children.
Sure.
Yeah, thanks.
Interesting fact came to light earlier this morning when we found out that a significant amount of missionized learning had not been done, through nobody's fault whatsoever. A siyum was supposed to be a siyum, meaning you finished. And when you finish Mishnayos, was that the Nishmas, a person on their Shloshim, finished. So, Uncle Cheese, Yehuda, who else? Zaidy and Sani and other people took a whole chunk, about 4 hours before 3 o'clock, so that would have been around 11:30, and sat down and started learning stuff. And some other significant significant chunk was parceled out to about 300 yeshiva bochum in Eretz Yisrael, who I think did it in about 8 minutes. My understanding was also that a siyum has to be made by the person who learns the last part. So the last Masechta in all of Mishnais and Shas Mishnais is Maseches Uktzim, which was being learned in Eretz Yisrael. That person, don't even know who that would be, is not here. It wasn't going to be here. So in the panic, I called up Rav Yoni Levin, who's the assistant rabbi of Eish Kodesh now, and who's who's a wonderful person. And I said, what next? Do I now have to learn Maseches Uktzim in 2.5 hours before we come here? And he said, no, it can be really done as long as you've learned a Masechta. So it turns out that I have the first Masechta, which is Brachos, and in Mitzvah Hashem I'm making a siyum. The last Mishnah. Here is now after Shkia, it's almost Tzeis, so we're truly in Shloshim, which is when it is supposed to be done. Last parak in Brachos focuses on the certain brachos that we make when we see things, when we see thunder and lightning, very, very frightening. The last two pasuk, last pasuk of the Mishnah is, it says, Eis Lasos, there's a collection of psukim from Tillim, from Rus, from Shoftim, and there are learnings that come out of these relative to brachos and things that we say. So the last one is Eis Lasos Lashem Hefelu Komatecha. That's what the Tanna Kama is saying, the author of the Mishnah. And we learned out that that pasuk was what Rabbi Yehuda Nasi used in order to make a heter to allow Mishnais to be written down. Torah Shabbal Peh is not allowed to be written down. But Rabbi Yehuda Nasi, during the time of the Mishnah, saw that Torah was being forgotten. And he used the pasuk, Eis Lasos Hashem, Hefelu Toratecha. It's a time to do for Hashem, because your Torah is being uprooted, it's being put away. And so that's why that's allowed. But Rabbi Natan Omer, he says, Hefelu Toratecha, he's reversing the pasuk, Eit Lasot Lashem. It is because he's saying it's not, we have to do something now because